After suffering devastating loss and making drastic decisions, Zetian finds herself on the seat of power in Washa. But she also learned that her world is not as it seems. Revelations about an enemy who dangles one of her loved ones as a hostage forces Zetian to share power with a dangerous man she cannot simply depose. Despite their mutual dislike and distrust, the two must work together to take down their common enemy and stoke a revolution against the systems of exploitation that plague their world. However, power is not so easy to wield once seized, and a revolution is not so easy to control once unleashed. As Washa's former elites strike back, and the common people's fervor for justice turns bloody and paranoid, can Zetian remain a fair and just ruler, or will she be forced to rely on fear and violence and succumb to her darker instincts in her quest for vengeance and liberation? Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. About 3 years ago, as of the time of this video's release, I have first dabbled into the bibliography of Shiran Zhaizhou with a look at their debut, Iron Widow. I then decided not to touch upon their bibliography until earlier this year when I reviewed their middle grade book, Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor, which I have to say made such a good impression on me that I decided to actually include Zhao in my list of must-watch authors. And for today's video, as the title may have already given away, I thought I would celebrate that that 3-year anniversary I mentioned earlier by taking a look at Iron Widow's sequel. I'm gonna have to pick you up for this, as usual. Heavenly Tyrant. And may I just say, what a gorgeous cover this is. Not only does it have a lot of the same clean lines and designs that the first book had, or that the first book cover had, but also it, funnily enough, employs a lot of very similar symbology. Though a little bit adapted for the content of this book, which very much showcases both continuity and also a further depth of complexity that is inherent to the messaging and to the presentation of this book in particular. Going back to Iron Widow just for a moment, I think it is fair to say that in spite of the many awards that it was either nominated for or outright won, its reception was still somewhat mixed, because while a lot of people praised it for its imagery, for its messaging, and for its world building, there are plenty of other people who called it juvenile, poorly thought out, or plainly uninspiring. I won't say where I fit into that particular discourse, but I will say that regardless of where you stand when it comes to that book, it is fair to say that its sequel, Heavenly Tyrant, had both a lot to live up to and a lot to prove. So, how did it manage? Well, my impressions in summary are, if I were to use a TV analogy, considering Iron Widow to be the Buffy the Vampire Slayer of this series so far, then it's fair to call Heavenly Tyrant the angel of this franchise. Both of these stories are set within the same universe, with the same creative minds at the helm, and this sequel, more or less, sequel or spin-off, depending on the case, tackles more mature themes. But the change in focus and perspective necessary to bring this second story to life ultimately do not allow for its central narrative to really impact or really resonate with this with its target audience. ultimately estranging almost as much as it fascinates. Still, it is never a dull book, and I find myself very thoroughly both entertained and pleasantly surprised by it. So, if you've read and enjoyed the first book and would like to dip into that, into the world that it presents one more time, well, then I have no issue. I have no issue recommending this book to you. Be warned, though, that its content warning list is in fact longer than the previous book. One of the longest I think I've ever seen. So if anything on that list is particularly disturbing to you, then feel free to skip. I won't judge. And now that I'm done with the broad impressions of this book, it's time I delved into some specifics. The plot of Heavenly Tyrant picks up immediately after the ending of Iron Widow, with main character Wu Zetian still being on the same action run that she was at the end of that book, up until she is stopped by the partner she picked up along the way, catching the two of them in a very dangerous dance of authority and influence as they find themselves having to work together with with potentially unreliable allies in order to bring their their visions and their understandings of what makes what would improve their society to life. And so yeah, that is basically the point. They have to they have to work with with their potential enemies in order to make in order to improve and bring lasting changes to the to the society within which they find themselves, even if at the top. And while they may be at the top, they still do not have an easy time of their developments and of the things they try to bring forth. From the very beginning of this novel, before the text of it even actually starts, given the fact that the dedication of the book is made out to figures such as Rosa Luxemburg and Salvador Allende, it is fair to say that this is the most nakedly political fiction book that I have ever read, with a lot of characters. And I'm not just talking about the leads here. Very much going on debates about not just about policy, but also about ideology and necessity and enforcement, and how it is that these factors influence each other through a series of lenses that are likely to result from within a social frame that is the size and variety and complexity of a nation, of a country. And while that description makes it sound as though this book consists is just a lot of scenes of people talking, that is not entirely the case. Yes, there are scenes where people are talking, people are debating, people are trying to find try to carry out dialogue about how to effectively institute lasting change. There are plenty of action scenes strewn throughout this book as well. Many of them still as interesting and as eye-catching as they've always been. With the final fifth of this book being of particular note, given that it captures the given that it is the culmination of a given that it is the culmination of a lot of build-up that has been accruing throughout the book, right from the very first sentence, actually. And while that action climax isn't always as isn't always as effective as it could have been, given some parts of it are described in a somewhat messy way, it still has a lot of. I would still say that the parts of it that work and that do indeed capture the attention and imagination of the audience are a little bit more numerous than the parts of it that don't. And when it comes to the world building, I think it does a fair job at strengthening the point of the plot. A lot of the messaging of this book revolves around politics, not as power play, but as social rules of engagement and how people engage with those around them, and with the instruments that they put together in order to facilitate these engagements. And as such, the world building does a lot to go into these aspects of how the world is put together. And I think it works at its best when it is effective, when it is capable of presenting these changes at a smaller, more granular perspective, really showcasing the impact that that the actions of the leads have over the rest of the setting, and how their efforts actually influence the society around them, and how they make people's lives better, worse, or somewhat more of the same. It is a small scope when considered that way, but it is nevertheless an interesting perspective that is quite effective at accomplishing its goals. When it tries to go beyond that and expand the focus a little bit, the book starts to become a little bit muddled. You know how in literary circles it is said that dystopia doesn't predict the future but critique the present? That is very much the case here as well, with plenty of aspects of this book critiquing the IRL present. And while there are plenty of parts of the IRL present that are worth critiquing, that are represented within this book, some points of criticism that the book brings forth ring true for the IRL world, but not necessarily for the book's world. Characters as they debate throughout the book mention studies in order to strengthen their claims. Yet, and whenever that happens, I can't help but wonder, how those studies came to be, who carried them out, what was their goal, and how are they published, how are they distributed. Like, it's somewhat weird to include this within the setting when you consider how it is presented. And even if it is presented as a joke in order to showcase that quoting studies at each other doesn't really change anyone's mind, I still don't find that joke to really be effective or to really resonate with any potential audience. So yeah. It's a little bit weird, and as I'll say, the most significant drawback of the world building, which is otherwise fine. Now, when it comes to characterization, I have to say it actually fares a little bit better, and it does a pretty good job at handling this substantial cast that this book presents. I've already mentioned that there are lots of debates and discussions throughout this book, and it is through these discussions and through these debates that the various characters have that the audience gets to know their background, their motivations, and overall their initial positions when it comes to how they when it comes to how they relate to other people and towards society and towards the various elements that that become possible through the social order they are brought up in, and then exploring how it is that these these conflicts clash into each other. That presentation really allows especially the supporting cast to come to life in in some very interesting ways. That being said, the book still gives plenty of opportunities to the leads to showcase themselves, and they, for the most part, do actually live up to that potential. Wu Zetian's partner, who I've already mentioned, doesn't really get a lot of development per se, but he does get plenty of definition, allowing the audience to better understand his role, his reputation, and his impact within the world, as well as his own personal characteristics. And I don't just mean backstory. I don't just mean appearance. I also mean the ways in which he thinks, the ways in which he strategizes, the ways in which he sets priorities, and how exactly that matters over the over the long term. When it comes to the main character herself, Wu Zetian, I unfortunately have she's unfortunately a little bit of a mixed bag over the course of this book. I very much read Iron Widow as the beginning of her becoming a villain protagonist, which I assume the intention actually was. However, throughout this book, that particular arc of her is cut short for a variety of narrative reasons, forcing her to find alternative means through which to accomplish her goals and to make herself stand out. And I will admit she is actually effective when it comes to those aspects of the narrative, but that still leaves her character arc in a strange sort of limbo, where she both both is a villain protagonist or a potential villain protagonist, but also has something else that could be brewing, and that could impact her development in the broader future. So yeah, it's still up a little bit up in the air. And because of that, I don't find her character work to be as compelling as it could be, or the character work done on her. It's not really as compelling, as eye-catching as it really could have been. That being said, there is a standout character of this book, and that is Yiji. He very much started this series as the Peeta Malark analog, and while he still fulfills that role more or less within this book, he actually takes on a little bit of a darker turn within this novel, fully showcasing the complexity or ambiguity that could result from results from this archetype interacting with various others, which I have to say makes for a very interesting character to follow through, as you never know what to expect from him, or what his initiatives will change moving forward, which in turn makes him arguably the most impactful character, especially when you compare his narrative impact to his page time. Overall, while I don't think all of the elements of this book really mesh together as effectively as they could have, it nevertheless represents a very interesting first stage towards broader discussions about society and the various facets that influence its functioning. My final rating for Heavenly Tyrant is a 4 out of 5. The same as its predecessor, funnily enough, but while Iron Widow was at the high end of 4 out of 5, this one is lower at the bottom end of that rating, but still a 4 out of 5. And yeah, that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the book itself or to my review of it, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My books, the first of my own Heir to the Empire series, The Next Generation and A Path Not Taken, are available at various book retailers under their respective master links in the description down below. Right past my social media links, which I suggest you check out should you choose to. Also, given that my third book is on the way, now might be as good a time as any to actually check those links out and see when and see what what you can find out about it. I also have a second channel where you can hear me talking about whatever crosses my mind, though it'll typically still be related to narrative analyses, but of works outside of the print medium. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check it out. If, however, you want to hear more about my thoughts on the print medium and selected works therein, well then I suggest you stay on this channel and go through my surprisingly broad catalog, or backlog, full of book reviews, writing advice, and miscellaneous connected topics. If none of that interests you, then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it for me. So until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.